Hello and welcome. My name is Nirja Chakravarti and welcome to the leadership series in my YouTube channel. So far we have discussed about various theories of leadership, and we have found that during 50s and 60s and also in early 70s there are a lot of discussions and lot of researches that happened on leadership. And what we found that majority of the theories, they were discussing about uh, two different aspects of a leader, like autocratic or democratic, authoritarian or equalitarian, production oriented or employee oriented, goal oriented or group maintenance, then efficiency versus effectiveness. And if we think logically, we were talking about two completely opposite aspects, and it was a kind of either or style of leadership. A leader can either be democratic or they can be autocratic, or maybe in between that. So if we think about a single line, so in that single line, autocratic and democratic sits in two opposite sides of each, and it's in a concept, it's basically a continuum change from one side to another side. So these two aspects has been seen as a leader style either or kind of scenario. However, the researchers in Ohio University thought bit differently. The research they have done, so they have said that it's not in a continuum, rather this task orientation and people orientation, they are two different axes of leadership. But they have said that initiation structure in horizontal axis or x-axis, which is synonymous to task orientation, and consideration in y-axis or vertical axis, which is people orientation or relationship orientation of a leader. And they have considered four different coordinate within that plane, where the x-axis is task orientation or structure and y-axis is relationship or consideration, and within that the four coordinate sets, where one coordinate talks about high structure or high task orientation, low relationship, then another one is low structure and low relationship, another one is high relationship, high consideration and low structure, low task orientation, and another one is where high consideration and high structure demands. And people say that it is the best possible way of leadership, where the task orientation is maximum and people orientation is maximum. But is it really true? If we think of a situation of a group where all the people or majority of the people are highly experienced and they are knowledgeable and they are also very much dedicated to the work, just imagine in that situation if a leader tried to talk to each of them and try to take stock of each of the activities they are doing with a high task orientation mindset, and they at the same time they try to coach them, they try to mentor them, they try to keep high relationship to see whether they are doing right thing or not, whether they need support or not. In that situation, what those dedicated set of people will think? I'm pretty sure they will be highly disturbed, irritated, and they may revolved also. So that's why in that kind of situation, high task, high consideration kind of leadership can make disaster. So there is no best way of leadership. That is the conclusion. It depends on situation. Leadership depends on situation. In which situation you behave in what way. And on that, Hersey and Blanchard, they did a wonderful research, and they said that it's not about task orientation and relationship. Another important parameter is another axis, which is effectiveness. How effective a leader is in different situations. In those four, just imagine those four coordinates, like high task, low consideration, low task, low consideration, high consideration, low task, and high consideration, high task. In this coordinate, leader has to decide that how effectively they can mold themselves, they can lead differently in those situations. So Hersey and Blanchard focused on situations, and they given a very good example of how parents keep their relationship with children. Just imagine when a child born, what parents do. Parents do everything for them, and as the child grows up in their infant days, parents used to say everything what they have to do. Parents teach them each and every activities they have to do, where structure is more from parent side. If we consider parents as leader, parents sets everything for the children, they guide for everything, and their parents basically trust the children in a very low level. They love them. It's an emotional relationship between a father, mother, and the child. But the parents trust the child with a very low consideration, because the child doesn't know what to do. You have to tell everything to them. You have to teach them. You have to coach them each and every activity. So just imagine this four coordinate. It actually sits where high task orientation and low consideration. And now as the children grows up and they went into school, they started studying in the middle school, and gradually they are going up towards the higher school. That time children start knowing what to do, what not to do, even though they are not fully sufficient. They don't know exactly in all the cases what to do, what not to do, but they have got a fair amount of idea of life. So that's why the parent has to change their style from high task low consideration to high task high consideration, because that time the parent has to trust them. Parent has to make a very good relationship with them, give them full confidence, but at the same time parents has to keep and watch, keep an eye on the children, whether they're doing right thing or wrong thing. If they're doing something wrong, parents have to correct them. So high task high consideration. So you can see that from high task and low consideration to it moved to high task and high consideration, because that time you have to give lot of importance to the children, because they are going towards the adolescent period. So they will be revolved if you don't trust them. So you have to show them you trust them. You have to show them that you really care for what they are doing, what they are deciding, but at the same time you have to set the rule also as the situation demand. And then when the child goes into college, in the higher school, so that time the children become more or less adult, or maybe adult. So that time they are self-sufficient. Then they have seen the world with the eye. They know what to do and what not to do. That time if you start telling them everything, and if you try to tell them what to do, what not to do, that time it will be huge confusion. So in those situations, the parents has to change their style. Parent has to reduce the structure, reduce the task orientation, and parents has to make a very good relationship. It's become a friend relationship between parents and the children when the children goes to college and they become adult. And when they passed out from the college, they started doing their job, and gradually they enter into their family. So that time parent has to stop telling what to do, what not to do, and also parents has to leave them with their own lives, so consideration also become less. So if you see, is in this four coordinate, the relationship started from here, the and it goes like that, and it suddenly dropped down, because now parents know that children can live their own life with their own control and confidence. But here one important thing Hersey and Blanchard had said that, just imagine a situation in case, in that low consideration, low structure scenario, when the children has uh, their own family and all, suddenly some crisis comes in children life, some separation, relationship separation, or whatever may be, if it happens. So that time the parent has to come up, and they have to give them a lot of mental support. So again they have to go back to the scenario where consideration is high, but definitely parent need not to say them what to do, what not to do, but a lot of mental, emotional support, socio emotional support they have to provide. So those kind of changes parent as a leader have to do. And when the situation become normal again, or it gets sorted, that time again the parent has to leave, and then the relationship again become to the low concentration, low structure scenario. So that's why the parent as a leader has to decide that at what time, how to behave with the children as a follower. Accordingly, leader has to also set the tone of how they will keep their relationship with their followers. They have to study the follower, what level of understanding, what level of maturity, what level of task knowledge that followers have, and accordingly leader has to change their style, and accordingly leader has to orient themselves. So major focus is then is how the followers think. Accordingly leader has to change their style, and this style of leadership is called situational leadership. What uh, Hersey and Blanchard said that the life cycle theory of leadership. And it's very interesting that how leader change themselves, and what they have said that it's not easy to change. And same thing Fred Fiedler also said, who is the innovator of contingency theory. They said that it's not easy for leader to change or decide what to do, what not to do, how to behave, what type of leadership I have to adapt. So that's why leaders has to consciously put their effort to understand how to behave. They should not be influenced by external knowledge. Rather, leader has to self-educate themselves on their behavioral pattern. Leader has to change their style depending on the situation, and understanding of that situation is very much important. And as we discussed about parent and child relationship, it is equally applicable to organizations. Within the organizations also, leaders has to understand that what is the level of understanding of their followers as, and if there are multiple followers, so they have to classify that what kind of followers they have, what are those groups, whether they need to coach them, whether they need to provide the mental support, or whether they have to do both. So depending on that, they have to decide the style to different followers. And how successful a leader can do that is the effectiveness of that leader, and that decides the success factor of the leader, and that eventually decides the success factor of the organization as well. And in this context, it is very much important to say that the leader has to decide that what way they will lead, and they have to understand that situation is one of the most important parameter, along with the understanding of the followers. So followers rule the way leader will behave, the leader will act, and they are the best leader who understand the followers, and accordingly they behave, accordingly they demonstrate their leadership. And that's the beauty of the situational theory of leadership. And next day we will discuss more about different aspects of leadership and leadership theories. With this, thank you very much.